Just tell us about sort of the disconnect between what the street was looking for, whether it speaks to the strength of the business, if it's an effect of the pandemic. Tell us what to expect for the coming year.
Yeah, I think the news we put out today was that we released our Q4 results, which were very strong. So much stronger than the analysts expected, frankly, much stronger than we expected internally. And so we're coming into Q1, into 2021 with a lot of momentum. And so, you know, the analysts, when they put together their projections, had put together projections, we believe, for 2021 based on it being generally a post-pandemic year. And the way we're seeing the business evolve and the market evolve is that we'll really be dealing with the pandemic for the first half of 21, and that it really is the second half of 21 that we expect we'll see business return to normal. And so while we're really excited about the strength we saw building in the business from Q2 of last year to Q3 to Q4, as we looked into 2021, you know, we're projecting, so first we're reinstating guidance because we feel good about the momentum in the business, and so we feel there's some predictability now in the market. And we put a number out of 17 to 20% growth rate in terms of revenue, and we'll continue to update that over the course of the year. But again, the assumption is that the first half of the year, we're still going to be working our way through the pandemic, and the second half of the year will be the new normal.
Can you help us with how to think about how you are helping track these new variants of the coronavirus? You have this partnership with Helix to detect the UK variant, also known as B117. I know that you've looked and you've found, 51 of 54 of the first cases that we found in this country of that variant. Are you looking for the South African variant too? And why haven't we found it? Is it possible that we're missing it? Tell us about the surveillance you're doing.
Yeah, so the current pandemic has really highlighted the role that genomics and Illumina have in infectious disease and in public health. And so we've been very actively involved in the surveillance of the pandemic as it's played out. So right at the very beginning, our teams were called in by the public health authorities in Wuhan in December 2019 to help identify the source of this pneumonia of unknown origin. And in January of 2020, the team at the Shanghai Public Health Clinical Center used our sequencers to sequence and publish the first viral genome of SARS-CoV-2. And since then, we've been working with CDCs around the world, as well as national health systems, to identify the emergence, the prevalence, the mutations associated with the virus. And so, as you pointed out, we're working in the UK with their sort of national surveillance initiative. We're working with the government of Australia. In the U.S., we're partnered with Helix and the CDC to look for the emergence of the virus and then the strains that emerge. Our technology powered the identification of B117 as part of the surveillance that was happening in the UK, and then working with Helix, the Helix team identified 51, as you said, of the 54 cases of B117 here in the U.S. Now, there's a lot less sequencing happening in the U.S., and that's something we need to address. That, if you think about how much sequencing we need to do to have an effective surveillance capability, it's probably about 10 times more than we have today. And that's, I think, partly responsible for us being, as a country, slow to identify mutations as they emerge and be able to track as they spread throughout the country.
It's Sarah Francis. Thanks for joining us. Can your genetic tracing help identify which therapeutics are especially effective and maybe more importantly, which therapeutics that are already in circulation, like remdesivir, are resistant to the COVID-19 virus?
So, Sarah, you bring up a really important point that what our technology does is it identifies the mutations that are emerging. And a lot of the tools we're using to fight the pandemic, whether it's the testing tools or some of the PCR testing tools, for example, only look at specific points on the virus. They don't look at the whole genome. And so if those points have mutated, then you may find that the testing tools you're using are no longer able to catch the virus in your community. And so the virus has escaped, if you like, the testing tools. And so it's really important to understand how the virus is mutating and what impact that'll have on testing tools, on vaccines, on therapeutics. And what you're seeing, and Pfizer's put out some interesting studies so far, is that these companies are looking at the mutations as they emerge and doing the work to assess, does this mean, for example, the vaccines are still effective? And in Pfizer's case, I think they came out with a statement saying, from what they've seen so far, their vaccines are still effective against B117. But it's important, whether you're a diagnostic testing company, a therapeutic company, or a vaccine developer, that you stay on top of the virus as it mutates.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.